Hey everybody, welcome back. Well, it's going to start with the ES on a 5-minute chart, and we're going to go smaller, and then we're going to get bigger, and we have to go through a lot of the internals today and what's going on with the internals, because this is getting somewhat interesting, and we are seeing a major shift. I want to explain the shift, and I want to explain it numerically so that you can follow along. But let's just start here with this level, and you can just see, right, we're ripping, we're pulling back, we're ripping over it, and it really doesn't look like much is here, right? So there's that 5 o'clock, and you kind of see that double top, and you're going, oh, well, what's there? So one of the things that I look at a lot is this cloud formation. And what you'll note is this is exactly where we started to break on that cloud formation. Now, I'm not going to bore everybody with the exact details of this, but I do want to get into some specificity with it. Now, by specificity, just when it goes from green to yellow, that is bearish when you can't get above. This is just a 20 EMA on the hourly for those that are going to ask. That's all that is right there. These are just calculations that I have. But if you take a look at it, once it starts flipping colors and you get a convergence point, for me, it's a convergence point on all three of those, is where I start paying attention. You kind of have it right here, guys. So you have my attention as far as, are we going to see a reversal of trend? This is kind of like my be-all, end-all on a longer time frame. Forget the 200. Let's just take that out. I appreciate you guys not worrying about the editing. I'm able to get in way more that way. It's very helpful. So I do appreciate your input, and I do appreciate you putting up with my voice for the past couple of days. It's been brutal, but we're back. So anyway, you can see right here how we have those 3 points of convergence. And then we flip to green, right, and everything's groovy. And you start coming down here, unable to get over it. You pull the flim-flam, you get wicks. Wicks are what? Price rejection. All right. So this is what we have, right? This is the suck salad that is now the market. All right. 4805 is the level that you want to pay attention to. That is your level, and that's what you want to pay attention to. Okay. Let's go take a look at the NQ. Now this is where it gets interesting, because the NQ went yellow and then flipped to green and got above all those levels. This was the level I was watching today, and then the last hour you could just see it was just like boop boop. Now after hours, we're seeing a lot of stocks moving after hours. It is very specific what is moving. Very specific what is moving. It is the semiconductors and it is certain software names, but the semiconductors are really lifting. There was a really good article by KeyBank on semiconductors, and that demand is completely underrepresented was the way that they said it. There's a couple other trades that we have to go over as well, but I thought that was interesting. So you're seeing that one sector really lift. All right, so we know why this is moving. Go to RTY, and the dream of interest rates is just dead, and you can see where we are right here, right? Now let's go take a look at the 10-year, and then what we'll do is we'll go to a plain chart, and we're just going to leave this in. We're going to squeeze this down, and I'm going to just pack a lot in, and you might want to watch this a couple times. So what we're seeing on this TNX here is not exactly what I'm showing here. So for whatever reason, they're giving me that print, but the print right now is the 406 number. Maybe they don't have it end of day yet, but you're at that 406 level, and that's really what you want to watch. You want to watch how this is going to play out, because right now it's not ideal by any stretch. So we know it's not ideal. We know we don't want to be over that 4%. If we come back down and we look at that level, people say don't chart the line, but I chart the line. I chart everything. I chart the yield, everything. So this is where we are, and we're rejecting in here. This is coming down. We said in 2 weeks we'd have a death cross, which would be good for the market. I'm just not sure what happens over the next 2 weeks. So let's take a look at the ES. We know we had to get over that 4805, and we were unable to. The question is, there's so much uncertainty out there now with the Red Sea. You have the Taiwanese elections. So there's a lot of stuff out there that we just really don't know how that's going to play out. And I think that's a very important distinction for us. So we're kind of in limbo here. Now, if we take a look at this limbo and we start putting the just simplest of indicators in, like RSI, you can see already here, we were talking about negative divergence, and now you're basically in line and you're rolling. This is pretty much the exact opposite of where you want to be. Like if I wanted to be somewhere good, it would not be here, right? So, and people say, well, RSI is not the be-all, end-all. It's not, nothing is, but it's definitely a data point, and it's not something I would bet against. And you can just see right in here that, you know, the differentiation, but that's pretty nasty stuff. So you're going to want to pay attention to that. And let me rephrase that. I certainly am going to pay attention to that. You can do whatever you like, but it's definitely an area that is a concern of mine. Now you go take a look at the NQ. I have the same thing, but not as bad here. But over here, yeah, I still have that area in here, right? So I have that higher high here, and then I've got that lower low here. And you could say, well, did it already shrug that off? Maybe it shrugged some of it off, but I don't know if it shrugged all of it off. I certainly don't have an answer for you there, but it's definitely something that I'm paying attention to. Another thing that we're starting to see is that a premium in the market for deals, maybe they're not where they're supposed to be, but we're going to get into that. But stay with me because this was pretty fascinating today. So you see KRE, and these are the sectors that are supposed to be ripping, right? Like KRE is supposed to be lifting, regionals are supposed to be lifting, we're supposed to be seeing the home builders, right? All these names are going to start holding. They all have the same pattern. They're all breaking down. They all have this pattern. And what we're seeing is we're seeing the breadth of the market. I'm going to give you a couple details on how you can see the breadth of the market, show you that in a second. Some real simple things you can do for free. All right, so now you have the home builders rolling, you have the regionals rolling. So you go, what's going to hold up the Russell? Well, you could say that it's going to be some of the biotech names, but XBI is rolling, and you just have an outright, to me, that's just an outright sell signal. So if you peak like this and then you undercut like this and you have the follow through like you do here, it's just an outright sell. Now on the XBI, you're right on that 22. Someone's going to wait for the 22. I might, but we're there. We're definitely there. If we take a look at the LABU, we're sitting right on that, and that's really like my drop dead on this trade. We got it in the 70s and ran it up, and some people I told, just if you're conservative, you get out the day JP Morgan Healthcare ended, right? It was that Thursday, and that was Thursday. That was pretty much the end of it, right? But if you wanted to give it a shot and see if it was just going to build in base, you have to at least go to the 22, which is kind of how I like to play it. I want it busted by the time I get out, right? Especially if I have this much of a cushion. I don't want to play the game of keep trying to get in or out, especially if I'm doing long-term and swing trades. All right, so now we have regionals not leading, we have home builders not leading, and we have biotech that's starting to look not that great. All right, so what is winning? So let's go take a look at the SOX. And the SOX is up. Is the SOX hitting a higher high? No. How about cloud names? I was talking all about cloud names over the weekend. The cloud saw all this volume coming in. Is cloud running? No. Okay, so what actually were some of the names that were up today? Well, coin on a massive short squeeze. Let's clean this all off. Right, you hit the 55 and you bounced off of it like a hot, like it was just like a hot stove. You have a 12-22 cross up here. You can easily bounce up and then roll again. But yeah, you stopped right there. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's not, but certainly something, and it's definitely an area that we're going to what? We're going to watch this area and we're going to see how it plays out. But what we're seeing in here is that cross leaning down. So at best, you're going to go sideways in here. You already broke the 20. This is what was up today. So besides the semiconductors, this is what was up today. And I think that's a concern. Now, by concern, I think it's great if you want to trade. That's not what I'm saying. There was trades here. If someone took the other side of my trade today, they did great. Right? They did amazing, right? You have to buy when it looks like disgusting, and then you're just basically, a wing and a prayer and hoping that you catch it. And that's what worked today, wings and prayers. I mean, it's not my kind of market, that's for sure. I can't look at this and go, oh, good, it's gone lower. It's an absolute disaster. Let me get involved. You could say this was your reversal bar. You're over the 9. I'm going to give it a shot. And, this is my stop, and I'm going to risk $3.50 to see if I can get back. But I'm already at the gap of break even. Like, it's just not my kind of trade, right? I mean, it worked. Don't get me wrong. If you bought it, it worked. But it's just not my kind of trade. The risk reward's not there. Nothing's there. But it worked. So it is what it is. All right. So then you go through, well, it must be all the biotechs. Or it must be all like these Bitcoin names. Well, it's not, right? Mara really didn't go anywhere. They tried to rally you at the end of the day. They're saying they're up right now, but is it? You start looking at Riot and you're seeing what's going on there. One thing that we were talking about, and I really wish that somebody would let me know if they read these. If anybody actually read these, from what I'm reading, I'm not reading that they must buy Bitcoin. I'm not reading anywhere in any of these that they must give you in kind. I'm reading that it's cash. So if it's cash and they don't have to disclose their full Bitcoin position, what are you buying? I'd start really looking into these prospectuses. I had a little bit of a talk about it tonight with the guys in the room. We were just discussing it, but I think that there's some things here that you guys might want to look at. I think you guys might want to dig into these prospectuses a little bit and see. I know it's supposed to be 1-for-1, but is that what it says, that it's definitely going to be 1-for-1? The only one that I know that's in kind, meaning that you can get Bitcoin, is GBTC. It's the only one. You might want to know that. You might want to know what you're buying. You might want to put the actual time in reading the prospectus or calling iShares and saying, what exactly are you guys doing? Is it cash settlement? Can I get in kind? Meaning, can you actually get the Bitcoin? Okay, there's a major difference there. And you want to look at that. You want to look into it. I'm going to get into it more on Saturday, I think, if there's an interest. If there's an interest, comment below. But it's also one of the reasons why Bitcoin saw the most outflows out of all these, besides the expense ratio, obviously. So let's get back to it. All right, coin, just a little segue there. But comment on that below if you know the answer to that. I haven't had time to read all those prospectuses yet. Something I'll do in my downtime. But if you take a look at this in coin, all right, so do we care about this? Do we care that it held the 55? Maybe we carry the held to 55. Maybe you're going to build in here. Maybe you're going to flip and then push. I don't know how high you're going to get, but maybe 141. Maybe it happens. All right. So is this what's going to lead? No. What's going to lead are the AMDs. Okay, that's up considerably. It's up considerably after hours. NVIDIA up considerably after hours. Really good report from KeyBank today. I didn't think it would have this kind of legs, but it did, where we're just seeing a lot of demand out there. They're saying that is completely unaccounted for. All the target prices on NVIDIA and AMD were raised today by them, and that actually led to the rally. Now, what's interesting is we have to deal Thursday with what? Taiwan Semi. They come out with earnings. So we'll find out. We'll know a lot more on Thursday. But can these amount of names sustain the market? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, everything's rallying, right? Well, is it really? Because, even this one today that I'm shorting, and I'm building a short position in because to me it's completely busted. And I'm going to wind up building a long-term short position in this. Like, you're below the 200, the 55. These are all going to start crossing pretty soon. This to me gets way uglier than this did. I'm getting to oversold, so maybe we bounce, and that's okay. I'll just add more. But I'm going to build a position in this. I'm just not going to just enter the position. And I'm looking out already on March puts. And, maybe he does something wacky there, but I think that there's a lot of heat here and a lot of problems personally. But the way this thing's setting up. So you're starting, if I just got rid of all this for a second here, just go plain and leave this on here, and we'll get rid of these levels. This amount of selling, the trying to lift, and we can barely get through the other day's close. Maybe we can rally back up to this level, but I just don't see it. The selling's not even exhaustive selling. We're not even exhausted yet. So that's where my head is with Tesla, because I always get asked so. All right, so what else is leading? All right, so far we have a couple semiconductor names. Well, it's semiconductors, right? Is it? I'll stop saying it. But you see where I'm going with this? It's not. So even SMCI, they flipped the level, 345. Everyone has to get in, right? 326. Look at this. Look at this little nightmare, right? So now you're in this thing. You're feeling all good and warm and fuzzy, right? And then they just rug pull you. Right, so you're seeing more of this. It's like today, I think it was someone was bringing up, hey, what do you think of AMD? I'm like, I like it. It's interesting. But do you really want to be buying these ahead of Taiwan Semi? And you're riding that 55. So you're like, okay, well, maybe I do. Well, you're still below the 22 and just got over the 12 on KLAC. You look at Lam Research. And look, you're still fighting the 12. You're riding it up, but you're still flipped and you're still riding it. So do you really want to be in front of this train going into Taiwan Semi? What if all these places decide to retool and they're just retooling towards AI and then they're not really worried about the other subset of chips? How's that going to play out with Taiwan Semi for capacity utilization, right? If everyone's upgrading and they're not buying the old chips, what's capacity utilization going to look like for Taiwan Semi? Disastrous until you go through the numbers, right? Something to think about. All right, so you have this group, so we have about 3 or 4 semiconductor names that are rallying. And then we're going through the rest of them. We're trying to find those other little guys that are going to rally. Everyone's looking for like the next AEHR in the world, but the ones that go up, not down. All right. So you have a couple semiconductor names that are just absolutely crushing today, right? It's all the names that KeyBank mentioned, like Micron. Let's take a look at Marvel, right? They were even trying today. And you're still seeing some push after hours. All right, so we have that. Then you get into things like Microsoft, and this is where I get somewhat concerned. I gap up all-time highs. This should have ripped. I actually tried to trade in it this morning. Did not work, got out, held a runner, and then tried to work around that runner and did okay there, but overall in the day just down. The purpose of this is you reversed. Well, is anything else reversing? Let's take a look at cloud, right? So you're between that 22 and the 12s declining. You can't get over. Go out there and just take a look at some of the other plays. All right, well, snow's down in the day. How's crowd look? All right, well, crowd's the one that is really, really trying here. CRM, all right, you're kind of sideways. Workday, okay, you're trying to fight there too. So we have cloud, and we have this 23, which has been our nemesis that we're unable to get above. And Microsoft on XLK rejected, okay? So what else rejected today? How about Apple? All right, so there's Apple, can't get over the 55. So now Apple, 8% of the S&P is below the 55, and we're wedged in between the 22 and the 55. All right, so now you know where we are, right? The larger concern is stuff like this, and this is where I do get concerned. Here's XLF, here's the 1222 cross. Here's the cross up here. Here's the break and decline today, right, of RSI under 70. I don't care if you use this or not, I use it, so we're gonna cover it. So this is where we're at, and this is the difference that we're seeing in the chart. That's a very different looking chart than we had last week. What's transpired since then? JP Morgan came out, had this reversal. Do you really think that this is going to just miraculously do it because people covered their short positions today? That's a reversal bar. Take a look at Goldman, which crushed, right? Couldn't get out of its own way today. See the 12 and the 22 up here? So we need more help, right? All right. So we're seeing good companies that are crushing. Let's be real here. Goldman crushed. They crushed. They're crushing and then they can't get out of their own way. Okay. So then if we come here and take a look at this, we're going to look at the McClellan Summation Index. And what I want to do with this is just talk about it from this standpoint and not go through the whole thing. But so here's McClellan, and what's happening here is pretty clear, right? All right. So we have some leadership, but we're not really rallying. We don't have full leadership and we don't have sectors that are rallying. We have big names that are rallying. And some of the larger names that really run the show are starting to fall apart. Apple, Microsoft, even though it hit a high today, pretty nasty reversal on the day. JP Morgan's reversal on Friday, pretty nasty. Really hard to have a market that continues with that. Anyway, here's the McClellan Summation Index. And this is basically goes off the McClellan Oscillator. I like this because it's just cleaner. And every time I get up here to this 500 level, you will see something pretty clear. Okay, and it doesn't happen right away, but let's drop that line right here and we'll get to it. All right, so here's your line and you can see, boom, cross. What happened? We rolled. Cross, we rolled. Well, you'll say, well, what about these crosses? Yes. What I'm referring to is when you're up near this 500 level, what happens? Doesn't matter how far back you go, right? It really doesn't matter. Back here, it didn't matter because we know here there was the injection of $1.7 trillion in capital. All right, let's keep going. So is this getting wider or is it getting narrower? It's getting wider. Okay, so the wider that this gets, the higher the degree of probability that this is going to continue to decline, right? It's really that simple. So, all right, so now we know this. Okay, next. And that's pretty accurate stuff. So let's for me, that's very accurate. So then this is the New York Stock Exchange advanced decline line. All right, look at what's happening here. Look at the level today. Now, just for reference, let's just go to 2023 advanced decline line. How many times have you been lower on average in this area? Like how many times have we actually been lower in this area in the past 12 months? That's it. All right. So that's the first thing that stood out to me. Here's the second thing that stood out. If you take a look at this, you can see that from October 13th on, what happened? We were hitting what? Declines, advances, declines. And now what have we been doing since about November? More. That's not ideal. That's not where you want to be. You don't want to start seeing the declines start outpacing here. This is not what you want to see. And that's an issue. And if you go and take a look at the new highs, I can actually do new highs. Anyone can look this up, and NSHF. And I think this is a really important distinction that I'm making tonight, and that's why I'm spending time on it. Let's just do it this way and just go new highs. And I'll find it that way. Drop that in, and then let's just go here and go NYA. All right. So, and then here's new highs, new lows. Now, this is on the daily, but what we'll do here is I'll just drop it to a 4-hour so you can see what's been happening, new highs, new lows on the New York Stock Exchange, and I did it on a 4-hour. What's been happening here? Yep, and I am getting detailed. See how it's sliding down and you're getting more new lows? See how you're not anywhere near where you were, new highs towards the end of the year, right? So this is what's happening. What does all this mean? The market's getting narrower and narrower. And if that continues, yeah, a couple names are going to keep going up, but overall, we're going to have an issue. Eventually, this all comes home to roost, and that's what we're trying to figure out. That's what we're trying to get ahead of, right? You just want to be cognizant of what's going on out there. You can't just go, oh, we're just going to keep going up, or oh, we're just going to melt down. You're actually physically going to have to do more work than throw darts against the board and just guess and go see how smart I am. So the other thing that we talked about a while ago was just stocks above the 50-day moving average. Okay, 91, 92, we say this is when it rolls, and it usually does not stop for months until you get to what? 17. And then what we did was just go back to 22 and say, okay, well, 1, 2, 3 times it did that. I understand you need statistically 30 times for it to be statistically significant. I don't have 30 times. I can only give you what I have, and this is what I have. If we go to 220, you can see it even back here, even with 1.7 trillion invested in the market. Every time you came in here, you basically had to come to that level. So that is something to be aware of, and you're starting to roll here. This is also telling you that the breadth of the market is getting worse, right? More stocks are breaking. This is real clear. If you had 91% of stocks up here and you have 77 here, just to make the math simple, right? That it's 15% of 500. Just to make it simple, you have 75 names, all right, that are now below that weren't, okay, from the difference between these two levels. It's a decent amount of names when you start thinking about it that way, right? Okay, so now that's on the 50-day. So if you just start running through them and you start saying, well, here you are on the 200, and just mark this off. Well, what happened February 1st, 2023? Go look at the market. What happened July 28th, 26th? Go look at the market. Remember what happened with the yen and then it came down? I don't have a macro issue yet. I could have a war that could be worse than we think it is. So these are some of the things that I'm looking at. The 200-day, you're in no man's land. On the 20-day, you're just really in the middle. And the 5-day is not anywhere near a trough level, which would be down to 7, to tell you that this is going to end. So this is the types of stuff that you're trying to get ahead of, and you're trying to understand what's going on in the market. From my perspective, you're narrowing. The market, without a doubt, is narrowing. And when you start to see it narrow, you have to understand that means a couple things. One, your breakouts are not going to work the same way, which is exactly what's probably been happening to you for the past couple days. You're like, I was a lot smarter 2 weeks ago, right? Because they're not going to work anymore. So your breakouts aren't going to work. And eventually, there's a saying, they come for the generals last. Even those that rallied, eventually, they're going to wind up giving. And you just need to be aware of that. That doesn't mean that you don't trade the AMDs. We had people trading these all day today, AMDs, NVIDIA. And we had one trade in NVIDIA where we bought this literally like right off the open. It was like such a clear buy right off the open, same time as I was doing the Microsoft. And then we made like $15 in the trade today, right? It's like it was just such a clear, easy trade, right? Like there was literally no reason to even do anything with it. I'm not saying to not trade, and I have an outstanding swing in this. So that's not the point. The point is understand what's going on fundamentally in the market and what's going in with the market dynamics so that you can make more informed decisions. In other words, maybe if something's going against you this now, you might cut it a little bit sooner. Maybe you'll change your position size. Maybe you'll look at all this and say, he doesn't know what he's talking about, and this is what I think. And if you think that, that's fine. Just comment below. I'd like to hear your opinion. That's it.